to all the people who are present in the meeting today. It gives me a great pleasure to invite the Principal of CTech, Dr. Kamasani Chandrasekhar Reddy Garu, and the Principal of SysTech, Dr. Muppala Janardhan Raj Garu, along with the HOD of the Department of Society, Dr. P. Ramesh Babu Garu, into the webinar. And now, on behalf of my Siddharth family, I, Lakshmi Prasna Pagadala, take it as a privilege to invite Mr. Shanmuga S. Nutalapati Garu, BTech MS in Texas, USA, into the webinar. Now, I request the HOD of the Department of Society, Dr. P. Ramesh Babu Garu, to address the gathering.
This is Dr. P. Ramesh Babu, Head of the Department CSIT. It is my privilege to invite our respected Principal SciTech, Dr. K. Chandrasekhar Reddy sir, respected Principal SysTech, Dr. M. Janardhan sir, today respected keynote speaker, Mr. Shanmuga Srinivas, Cloud DevOps Engineer, T-Mobile Company, Great Denver, USA. Our special thanks to our beloved Chairman, Dr. K. Ashok Raju sir, for encouraging us to conduct such a great event. I invite all our respected faculty members and our beloved students. A very good morning to all. I would like to thank Mr. Srinivas for accepting to conduct live webinar. I proud to say he is one of my best students of our Siddhartha Engineering College. Today webinar will improve our students' skills to grab opportunities after their degree in the real world. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, I request the Principal of SysTech, Dr. Muppala Janardhan Raj Garu, to address the gathering. Sorry for the inconvenience, and it's high time to invite the Principal of CTech, Dr. Kamasani Chandrasekhar Reddy Garu, to address the gathering.
Very good morning to one and all, and good evening to Mr. Shanmuga Srinivas. He is today's guest and alumni, and he is my student. On behalf of the Siddhartha family, I wholeheartedly thank you, Srinivas, for accepting to create awareness on role of AWS, DevOps engineer in IT industry to all our students. I feel proud of you, Shanmuga. Your interaction to your juniors not only helps in sharing the knowledge, it also helps to motivate them. I would like to congratulate students, faculty, HODs, Department of CSIT, and also MCA for arranging this training. I would like to appreciate Dr. Ramesh Babu, HOD, CSIT. Please, all of you learn. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Good luck.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I take this moment as a great opportunity to share the professional summary of Mr. Shanmuga S. Nutalapati Garu. He has an experience of 6 years in AWS, Cloud IAM, DevOps, development, building, and release management. He is certified in AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. He has an extensive experience in design and implementation of continuous integrity, continuous delivery, and continuous development. He has an experience in identity and access management concepts. He had designed and implemented event-based security and driven alerting notification mechanism. He has an experience in cloud computing solutions like SaaS, IaaS, PaaS for more than 3 years. He has experience in DevOps maintenance. He is heavily involved in disaster recovery planning and execution using AWS CloudFormation. And moreover, I feel proud for being a Siddharthian and inviting a Siddharthian today. Now, I request Mr. Shanmuga S. Nutalapati Garu to take over the session.
Hi, all of you. First of all, thanks for getting me to connect with the students. Like it has been like almost 5 to 6 years that I have been working in the IT, but I never got to address students of your age directly. So I thank Ramesh sir and Chandrasekhar sir for giving me this opportunity, and all the faculty for conducting this session. So I don't want to waste any of your time anymore. So let me start this session. So, first of all, my name is Sri Nutalapati, and I'm your super senior.
Srinivas,
Yes.
Srinivas, sorry to interrupt. Can you share your video for a short moment?
Yeah, sure, definitely. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, Srinivas.
Yeah, cool. So, as you all know, like these days, IT industry has been very agile. Like day to day, everything will be updated, and whatever you learn today, it won't be valid for tomorrow. So it's better to learn the skills that you cope up with the fast-paced IT industry. So today it's all about uh, you know discussing about the basics of AWS DevOps. So that is because I'm from that field. So I don't want to waste any of your time, and you can simply go through my intro through my LinkedIn. I'm doing this because at this time of your career, you should start building your LinkedIn profile, and you should get accustomed to using LinkedIn instead of using Facebook or Instagram. So that's why the main intention of keeping this short is to let you know that LinkedIn is very useful to introduce yourselves to the career in the IT industry. So speaking of time, right? So it's just 1 hour session, and I need to talk about role of AWS DevOps engineer in the IT industry. And I don't think it is possible to talk about DevOps in just 1 hour or even cloud. So let me make this session not too technical or not too professional. Okay, I'll uh, I'll I'll make this session very helpful for you guys, so that your life would be easy when you step into the IT industry as cloud DevOps engineers, or as a matter of fact, any software engineer. Uh, so as you can see, the agenda for today's session is like, I would like to break few IT myths. There are many IT myths that being in second year or third year or even on the fourth year, you might think that this is what IT is, this is what programmer would do, or this is what a DevOps guy would do. So there will be many myths. So I have taken a few interesting myths, and would like to break those. And definitely I am going to introduce you guys to DevOps. And I would like to let you know what are the expectations and skill set required for the DevOps engineer. And obviously, today's world without cloud is, you cannot imagine IT industry. So, and I have expertise in AWS, Amazon Web Services. So I'm going to introduce that. And obviously, after talking all about this, if you don't get information about how to learn these aspects, it's of no use. So we're going to discuss about learning paths in AWS, and definitely we're going to go for Q&A session. So I'll go ahead and turn off my video. I don't want to bother you anymore. Okay. So I mean, in before going to entering into the real world, especially in the IT, we all come to IT with some general myths, right? Like we think that technology is all about coding, maths, and science. So, but it's not 100% true. Okay, you should. I see someone raise their hands. Uh, does anyone have any doubts? Okay, I'll take that silence as a no. So yeah, basically we all think that technology or IT industry is all about coding and maths and science. But to be frank, especially in today's IT, uh, not only the coding is important, but also you need to know the infrastructure, and you should have soft skills, definitely. And especially we are talking about DevOps today, right? Like DevOps without soft skills, you cannot survive, not even a single day. Yeah. So it's just a myth. So you should have all other skills as well, along with programming skills and maths and science. So coming back to the second myth, like if you learn a simple one programming language or a technology, you might think that you can survive easily. But to be frank, I'm not sure how many of you covered operating system subject, or networking subject, or software development lifecycle, all these courses yet. But at this moment, I still remember, like, we think that it is not useful in your longer career, but it's just a myth, guys. You should focus on what's happening in those subjects as well, because with simple programming language you definitely cannot survive anymore. IT industry is enhancing, and management expects you to know everything and anything. So that's again a myth. So coming back to the third myth, like, uh, we all think that, like, in IT industry, we will not get job satisfaction. It is never in our hands, and because there will be politics, or management shows some partiality. So that's again a myth. So your job satisfaction is definitely in your hands. Um, I want to definitely give you some examples. Like, I've seen in the projects that I've worked in, I've seen my colleagues complaining about the management, or the senior folks. But I was also under the same level of them, but I never faced such issues, because I tend to keep everything transparent, and I tend to keep track of all the work that I do. And definitely we use tools like reporting tools like Zira, all Confluence tools. So you should be always leveraging all the automation tools, or reporting tools, to maintain what you are doing, and showcase in a well-mannered way, that everyone knows what you're doing. So no one can complain about you, or no one can ruin your satisfaction at work. So that's what I wanted to talk about that. And final myth that I want to talk today is, like, uh, many of you, I know, like, got suggestions that only if you do certifications, or only once you get this certification in your hand, your life would be easy at work. So that's definitely a myth, because all I want to convey is that I don't want you to not to try taking the certifications. I definitely want you to take certifications, but even if you don't get certified, don't get into a sad mood, right? Why I'm saying this, definitely the path to certification, right? When you learn something while you have a when you keep a goal and do get a certification, that learning process is what is required. It's not the end certification that is required. Of course, definitely some jobs might look at your certifications list, but definitely once you learn sincerely to keep by keeping a goal that you want to get certified, then please go ahead and start learning today. And the learning, uh, as you say, there is a saying, right, in English, the journey is important rather than the destination. So it is aptly applied for certification learning process. So please do start learning. And I would like to also mention that you don't have to purchase all the learning material today. Like, your generation is very fortunate. You have everything available freely on YouTube or internet. All you need to do is, like, you need to spend some time and go ahead and learn, start learning step by step. You don't have to worry about the complete certification or the end goal of it. You start learning and try to understand what you are studying in your courses, and try to implement what you are learning on the certification paths. So these are the myths that I wanted to break. So hopefully this helps you guys to pursue IT industry and have a happy life when you step into it. So definitely today's topic is all about AWS DevOps. So talking about AWS DevOps, people at work, right? They call me cloud DevOps engineer or cloud automation engineer. Sometimes they call me ops engineer, and sometimes they call me site reliability engineer, blah, blah, blah. So why I'm saying this is that DevOps is a certain role where you do not fit into one single, box, or it's not it doesn't work in silos. You need to decentralize yourself, and you need to know what developer teams are doing, testing teams are doing, management teams are doing. You need to uh, play a multi-talented, or multi-tasking role at a time. I'll talk about more about it. So talking about DevOps, right? Like it's a in past 2 to 3 years, or maybe 4 to 5 years only, this terminology called DevOps has come. But earlier it was traditionally, like especially when I joined or before that, there were teams called operations teams and development teams. Like most of you might have completed your C, C++, and Java courses, right? So all you learn is like OOPS concepts, and how to code, how to develop a feature, something like that. So generally, developer does that, and development teams take care of building application. Whereas operations team, like definitely, if you are building an application, you need to run that application on a server. Like let us take your personal laptops or computers, right? So in the labs, whenever you develop a program, you want to run that program inside a system or on a OS, right? So think about it in a large scale. You have this laptop with you, and if you want to run your program in that laptop, you can install all the required software. Okay, that's fine. But what about running that program on a different machine of your friends? Or if you want to run on 100 people's laptops or servers, you need to have a system or a person who does take care of all these operations, like be it infrastructure, be it operating system, all these aspects. So that was a traditional ops team. With the time, these teams got matured, and the term called DevOps and development teams and ops team, all the three has evolved. And with the time, people have started eradicating the word called ops teams, or separate development teams. These days it's all about SREs, or DevOps engineers or automation engineers. In the future, like even you don't even see an individual called as developer. you know uh, it's all about automation engineers, or DevOps engineers, or site reliability engineers. SRE is nothing but site reliability engineer. So basically, why this evolution is happening is, in the early days, like I mean not early days, like even 5 to 6 years back, uh, teams, whenever a developer develops something and it goes to testing environment, if any bugs or issues comes out, like it comes back to development team and they need to fix it again, and then it will go to testing process, and if there is any issues, uh, like again goes back. If there is no issues, then will be promoted to next environment, upper environment. So when I talk about environment, right, like, so let us take, I think most of you play PUBG or most of you use Facebook, right? So these are the end applications that users like us, we use, right? But in the background, for example, today Facebook has uh, updating your profile picture feature. Let us say that 5 years back there is no such feature, like you cannot update your profile picture. So developers had to build that feature and promote that to testing environment before pushing it to the live production environment, so that uh, end customer sees that, because there might be some issues or performance issues, like it might be slow, or even let us take this Zoom app. So if we are getting any network related issues or connectivity issues, we raise a ticket with Zoom team, and they will take it as a bug and they will fix it and they will release it. So all these things, it used to take a lot of time, and there were complaints between teams that I developed a perfect tool, but it did not go well. I don't care. So these kind of complaints used to be there. So to eradicate all those, discrepancies, or to increase the efficiency of the software development lifecycle, DevOps team has evolved. So I know, like most of you have completed, C++ or Java, right? So Java lives on OOPS paradigm, right? Object as object-oriented principles. So basically, I would like to convey that any new roles that are getting created these days in IT, like site reliability engineer, automation engineer, all those roles, they are created based on DevOps main culture or main role. So that's why I always preach this particular statement. Class SRE implements DevOps. SRE is nothing but an interface, and DevOps is nothing but a class itself. So all the DevOps principles are being implemented by different roles. Like if it is a site reliability engineer, he only takes care, he or she, they only takes care of whether the application is highly available, like 24/7. Is it reliable? Are there any issues? So these kind of aspects a site reliability engineer takes care. Whereas an automation engineer takes care of like coding and writing infrastructure as code. Like you don't have to worry about what are all the servers that you are building, what are all the OS you are building. uh, uh, Automation engineer, he will write config files and simply deploy it, so that your entire infrastructure of 1,000 servers with 1 TB of memory on all the servers, whatever the desired state your application requires, he will take care of. So if you talk about DevOps guy, he does all these things. That's why I mentioned here, class SRE implements DevOps. So this is the basic introduction of DevOps. If you want me to stop, take answer, questions, I can do that. But if you want me to take questions at the end, I can do that as well. So moving forward, like our next agenda is like to know what are all the skills and expectations, even the technology stack that a DevOps engineer deals with. So as I was saying under the myths portion of the slide, right? So any DevOps engineer, or as a matter of fact, any IT engineer would require soft skills. So let's talk about a DevOps engineer, right? So we deal with developers, whatever they develop, they need to, yeah. Does someone have any question? I heard a noise, so. I'll take that silence as a no. So I'll proceed. Yeah, so soft skills. So soft skills are nothing but your communication skills, behavior skills, and how you are dealing with others, or how can you tackle the conflicts? How can you resolve those conflicts? For example, a developer would come and say like, I want to build a Python based or Java based application on uh, Windows server, and I want to use uh, 50 MB of memory whenever this function runs. So they will explain all these kind of requirements. Sometimes your project may not be able to provide that because it is too costly, because developers, they do not worry about it's not a blame thing, but in reality, developers, they do not have to worry about what the infrastructure costs are, and what your company's budget is, all these things, right? So it's that's where a DevOps engineer comes into picture. Of course, management and DevOps engineer, like, they know how much cost so and so infrastructure costs. So whenever a developer asks for so and so features, like, they need to explain and come to an understanding. So that's why you need to have soft skills, not only with developers, even for testing team, even for business team, even the client, end clients or end customers, whenever there is any tickets or issues, you need to be able to debug, and you need to discuss with them, and make sure that you communicate well with them what is the issue, or what is the solution for their issue. So that's why you definitely need soft skills. Even the collaboration with different teams is definitely required. So what is this flexibility means? Like, most of you think that uh, IT is 9 to 5 job, or 8 hours job. It is definitely according to the waging rules, government waging rules, or norms. But in reality, in IT, especially for a DevOps engineer, the expectation from you is that you should be available 24 by 7, guys. But I'm not trying to make you afraid or something like that, but you feel very happy or very good if you resolve an issue and you get lot of appreciation, like no other teams would get the appreciation that you get, and you would be in limelight. So all you need to do is, like, you need to be flexible. Not only that everything, but you should be able to implement your knowledge at all times. Like, if there is any P1 ticket or high priority issue comes, let us say Zoom application is not working all over India, then Zoom, I think it's part of Chinese uh, private company, right? Like, so when they get a complaint that in India Zoom application is not working, so they will lose, like, what, crores of customers, right? So they need to take it as a very high priority and make sure that their cloud, for example, let us say that all the servers are hosted on AWS cloud. So then they need to work and look into they need to troubleshoot, and they need to immediately resolve, even if it is 1 a.m. in the night. So that's the flexibility I'm talking about. Then customer focus, obviously, uh, not only DevOps guy, any IT guy, they should work towards customer or organization goals. It's not just towards your project, or it's not just for your role. Like, you need to always think out of the box. Like, the next key skill or expectation from a DevOps engineer is, like, you should always think out of the box. When I say that, what I really mean is that, let us say today your application is running on 100 servers. When I say server, it's nothing but an laptop, or a PC, personal computer, which is hosted by a cloud provider like AWS. They will also have these servers, physical servers, in their data centers, but we don't have to worry about all the physical infrastructure. So we will call it as virtual instance, okay, virtual uh, machine. So you today you might be running 100 servers, but you want to all your team is happy with that capacity. But as a DevOps engineer, you need to foresee, okay, uh, today you will attend a meeting, and in that meeting you will come to know that uh, uh, in the next quarter, like in the next 3 months, there is a new project, new application or new feature is going to be launched into your project. So that would definitely require additional 1000 TB of memory, and additional 50 servers kind of. So you need to plan all of it beforehand, and you need to discuss with your architects. Yeah, you are not an architect, but you would be expected to work as an architect, and you need to discuss with them and discuss all the solutions or designs, and you need to keep your budget in mind. And like, of course, when a new project comes, definitely they would allocate some budget as well, but it won't be, I mean, yeah, budget never matches with your expectations. That's a reality. So you need to make sure that that is somehow adjusted, and you meet the all the goals in a successful manner. That's out of box thinking I was trying to say. And networking related skills, as I was saying, if you haven't come across networking subject yet in your academics, please do focus on networking skills, guys. Like, of course, I totally remember that if the syllabus is same, networking, and there are some other operating systems. These are the very difficult subjects that I used to feel, even my friends used to feel. But to be frank, in those days, we didn't have multiple sources to learn. We didn't have animated content to understand the subject in reality. So be it networking, be it operating systems, be it security, any of these subjects, right? Today you have very quick and short YouTube videos, that too animated. Someone might have done in US or Australia or UK. You can sit in your house and you can watch it. So that's what I'm trying to say. Instead of course, you definitely need to have all those social networking thing like Facebook or Instagram. You need to have that stress-free life. So definitely use those. But daily, spend half an hour to 1 hour, at least 15 minutes, build a LinkedIn profile, use LinkedIn as if it is a Facebook, you know, that way, in the longer run, you would have built a wonderful LinkedIn profile that would attract many of the uh, companies or recruiters. So that way, maybe you would get a job easily even before you search for one. So it is always to go through these technology related videos, and building your LinkedIn profile, and update your profile saying that today I've learned networking related concepts. Today I've learned operating system kernel based aspects, those kind of things. Let it be like, let your profile be very nascent, or you know people might think that so this looks very basic, but don't worry about them now. Think about 1 year or 2 years from now. So your LinkedIn profile would be very good, and and what you have learned. Okay, so at least you would know what you have learned and what you need to learn. So that would help you keep track of all your skill set. And so a DevOps engineer definitely would have to know networking related aspects, like, so as I was saying earlier example, right? Zoom. So Zoom application, it's not working in India, and it is hosted on AWS. There is something called virtual private cloud. Yes, AWS. I'll talk about all those aspects in detail. But any cloud, it will be shared across the world, all the companies, right? But how can they protect privacy of other companies from another companies, right? So there is a concept called virtual private cloud. So within the cloud itself, each companies will be given some portion of servers, and it will be bounded with certain NACLs, like network access control is firewalls. I'll talk about those aspects later. So basically, a DevOps engineer need to know if any connectivity issues are there, or basic troubleshooting skills should be there, and they need to help the customers or the other teams in the project that this is the issue and we have fixed it. So those kind of skills. Coming to testing skills, so this is one skill set that you don't have to have completely, but you definitely should know what is unit testing, or what is integration testing, what is performance testing, what is load testing, what is penetration testing. There are many types of testing, but definitely each of those testing has its own importance. Like, let us talk about performance testing, right? So in that testing, you will do the entire application performance, and see, of course, performance and load testing bind together. And so whenever you do an testing, performance and load testing, you actually try to replicate that. uh, there will be 1 lakh customers for your application, and once this application goes to production, there should not be no issue, no performance issue, it should not be slow, kind of. So that you will do in the lower environments itself. So at that time, a DevOps engineer should know what are the metrics that it is meeting, the application is meeting. And obviously security is one of the key focuses. Of course, there will be security teams separately for that, but for your project, I mean, your management would expect that you know how to set IAM, identity and access management. Uh, I'll talk about that in detail later. So you need to definitely know DevOps tool chain like CI/CD, all those stuff. And of course, you need to be able to automate your infrastructure. So whenever you use infrastructure, the word infrastructure, just imagine 100 servers with different operating systems like Windows, Linux, Macintosh, or and also you can also imagine you use MS SQL Server, uh, mm, IBM DB, or even AWS DynamoDB. So imagine that your application has all these items, and that is called infrastructure. I'll talk about that. What is automation on the infrastructure means. So there is this interesting link that I found today. Um, can you guys see my screen?
Okay. Yes, okay.
Yeah. So, and can you see my browser as well?
Yes, Srinivas. Yes.
Okay, cool.
And Srinivas, one minute. I want to introduce head of the department, our CSC department, SciTech,
Sure.
SciTech, Dr. B. Geetavani madam. Actually,
Hello.
previously Nirupama madam is there. Now Geetavani madam is the HOD. And for SysTech, actually madam came to meeting due to network problem. She disconnected. And in this meeting, and for SysTech, CSC HOD, Dr. William Albert sir is there in our meeting. Dr. William Albert sir. And MC HOD, Dr. A. Surupani madam. Both of faculty is there in our meeting. Sir, sir, William sir, hello. Hello. William sir. Surupani madam, unmuted. Okay, okay. Srinivas. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Madam Surupani madam she's the MCA HOD Srinivas, MCA department HOD.
Hello, ma'am.
William sir is unmute. Okay, okay, no problem. Okay, continue, Srinivas.
Sure. So, yeah, today when I was preparing for this presentation, right, I found this interesting link, right? So, of course, you have a lot of abundant information on the internet, to know what are all the application stack on the for a DevOps engineer. So are you guys able to see something like a periodic table? Can someone confirm that, please?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Cool. So, as you know, like in intermediate, you might have learned periodic table, right? So don't scold me for that. I'm not showing this to, you know, make you afraid of DevOps. I'm just showing that there are many tools for different phase of the DevOps lifecycle. For example, if you are trying to manage database, you have something called database management tools. And if you are trying to work on the continuous integration, you have Jenkins, GitLab, Code, Ship, Bamboo. So this is one wonderful link I found. Just wanted to share with you guys, but I'm not going to talk about all this stuff now. So don't worry. And I'll share this link, okay, later. And coming to the DevOps lifecycle, I think 80% of you might have seen a diagram something like this when it comes to DevOps. So let me talk about each phase on this diagram and make it. I will try to make it simplify. So I'm not sure how many of you has completed a software development lifecycle SDLC course in your academics. So DevOps diagrams looks something like that only. So you will be part of planning. So whenever a new feature comes or whenever a new requirement comes, I hear some noise. Could someone please mute yourself?
Please unmute all, please.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, planning phase is where you'll use tools like Jira, Confluence, and note down what all the requirements, what are the tasks that needs to be implemented before you actually create the application. Whereas create phase is where you build an application. I mean, earlier we were talking about uploading a display picture on the Facebook, right? So that is a feature, and the entire Facebook application, that is one of the features that you want to, you know, create. So your development team, based on the planning and requirements phase, your development team would create the feature. So you might think that what does the DevOps guy has to do anything to do with that, right? So as I said earlier, like uh, these applications, they need to talk to one another. So there will be APIs, and API is nothing but application programming interface. So you need to make sure that whatever developers are building, it should be able to talk to other, for example, in the backend database, something like that. So verify is the phase where testing is mostly involved, and you need to validate. Of course, DevOps guy will not validate again, but he will definitely be part of those sessions where testing is there. Of course, most of these validations and testing is automated through CI/CD. That is why DevOps is involved. Continuous integration and continuous delivery. Uh, and once it is verified and tested, you will take that piece of code to the package phase. So in the package phase, you will, that is where you, once the built binary files, like the .jar files, .var files. So whoever has started working in Java, you know these terminologies, right? It is nothing but computer understandable package. So you need to store, you will be storing it in tools like Artifactory, uh, all those tools, and then you will be moving that packaged code to be able to release into different environments. As I said earlier, there will be development environment, a non-production environment, and production environment. And of course, depending on the project and need, there will be a number of environments, and they will keep different types of names for those environments. But an environment is nothing but where you run your application, and where you actually deploy and run your application. So coming to configure, right? This particular phase, you will see different names and different diagrams. Some companies or some teams will say it as a deploy, some it will say as operate. So configure is a phase where you actually make sure that all the infrastructure is up and running, so that whenever your application is being deployed into your infrastructure, you can actually see the results. For example, going back to that Facebook display picture example. So you need to make sure that your infrastructure is good in such a way that when you deploy that feature, it should gel well with your existing application or existing pages. So monitoring, like, is a very important phase for a DevOps guy. Uh, I mean to say, release, configure, and monitor. These last three phases are definitely very, very important. Monitoring is where you proactively look out for bugs, errors. So today, these days, what is happening is, companies or projects are not waiting for the customers to raise any complaints or create bug tickets. They want to proactively identify the bugs even before the customer identifies it. So you definitely need monitoring tools like uh, Splunk, where you see application logs, App Dynamics, where you actually see all the metrics and thresholds, and CloudWatch on the AWS. So these are the monitoring tools that you can leverage. So in this slide, I've included one link where this is the YouTube link. As I was saying from the beginning, I don't want you guys to take stress, spend lot of money and, learn. I don't want you to do that. I want you to go to YouTube. Of course, spend some time to listen to your favorite music or something like that. But uh, also spend some time, like at least 15 minutes to 30 minutes daily from now. Just imagine, like, from the second year of your BTech, if you start doing all these things, guys, you can do miracles in the IT industry. Like, we did not have all these sources in those, like, 5 to 6 years. Of course, you might say that YouTube is there from past 10 years, sir. Like, you can say that, but people were not posting all this useful content in those days. Like, now, even I have a YouTube channel, and I post a lot of funny content. So everything is free. So please do go there, and uh, let us take a look at this video for 1 minute. Just, it's not a 1 minute video, but I just want to uh, for example, if you want to know what will happen in the planning phase of a DevOps, you can type in YouTube and you will find thousands of videos, and choose one of the interesting, learn that for that day. That is enough. And discuss with your friends, and that way you can even share your knowledge. Interesting. You can joke about it. See, DevOps guy has to do so and so and so and so time. You know, yeah. Uh, love what you learn. That's what I'm trying to convey. So if you look at this particular slide, even I don't like this slide, and it has technology stack or tools stack. I don't want you to go through all this at this moment, but there is a reason why I kept this slide here. So if you see here on the left side, uh, DevOps to all these phases. Like it's not visible, I know. It's very small. I'm just trying to convey that you need to know one of the programming languages, and I always suggest you learn any object-oriented programming language, because if you ask any of my professors, including Ramesh Babu sir, like I used to be very good in Java programming, okay, but until today, I never got a chance to develop a program in Java, okay, but that learning experience helped me to learn new language after I joined IT, and especially in the past 4 years only. 4 years back only, I've learned Python and Node.js. Node.js I learned 2 years back, and today I'm one of the best programmers in project. So what I'm trying to convey is that learn one programming language at least, basics, that to learn object-oriented one, that will help you to understand, to deal with your developers, testing team, architects. So that is very much important. Coming to, I was talking about operating system concept. You need to know what is a process, what is a kernel, or what is a command, what is virtualization. All these concepts you will learn definitely in the OS subject. So once it comes, please do focus on that. And uh, if you see a diagram in your textbook, or in a presentation that your professor gives, that information in the YouTube, and you'll find videos. That way you can easily learn that concept. And coming to servers, as I was saying, DevOps guy needs to know. Guys, I see some. Yeah, coming to networking, and you need to know the the 7 layers of networking, all those basic concepts, and what is the REST, HTTP API, all these aspects. Apart from that, you should know definitely DevOps engineer. You should completely know or have hands-on experience, or at least at your phase, you should have theoretical knowledge on the CI/CD tool stack. Uh, Here on the right side of the pane, you see examples on each phase of the CI/CD. For example, if you talk about source code management, so I definitely know that you don't know any of these terminologies, or at least I can assume that many of you doesn't know these terminologies. So I'll try to make it simple. Source code management is where you save your code in cloud. So, and it can be like today you make a change, and tomorrow you make another change. After 10 days, 5 people working on the same program make hundreds of changes, but you need to have a track of all those changes. That way, if there is any issues with the latest code, you can roll back to previous code and deploy that. So that is source code. So basically GitHub, uh, GitLab, Bitbucket, these are the tools. Subversion. Coming to build phase, like this is where you actually build your binary files. Like if you write a Java program, you should convert it into jar file, right? So Maven is one of the tools. Yeah.
Nice. Ask them to keep in mute. Nagaraj, Swarup Rani, yourself, please keep in mute. Be conscious.
Yeah. So for each phase, there are some famous or frequently used tools. You need to these days when you build write some code, right? There are tools to identify the mistakes automatically. Fortify Sonar or and identify security related issues. So Sonar, Fortify are such code scanning tools, and you have something called uh, obviously Jenkins, GitLab, or Bamboo. So these are the overall CI/CD integration tools. Like you can use GitHub, Maven, Sonar as plugins for your within your Jenkins, and it will have visually a pipeline to show that your application or code is in this phase right now. It is in this phase. So something like this only. You can see here, right, as a pipe, checkout code, unit testing, quality control, deploy to test, fetch latest builds. So all these are individual phases within a CI/CD pipeline. And these are the tools, like when it comes to testing, you have Selenium, JUnit, Cucumber. When it comes to uh, uh, packaging or archiving, you have Nexus, Artifactory, as we talked earlier. And mainly the configuration tools, like you need to make sure that you are able to deploy your application somewhere, your infrastructure, and you need to able to configure your infrastructure so that you can quickly scale from 100 servers to 10,000 servers, and and install all the required application softwares within all those servers, right? So the configuration tools like Chef, Puppet, Ansible are one of those famous tools. And you need to know Docker, Kubernetes. Those are where virtual machines are containerized, and you deploy your services or applications into servers. And finally, the cloud providers, Amazon Web Services, Azure, Google Cloud, OpenStack, Rackspace. These are the cloud providers where your virtual machines are actually uh, purchased by the companies, so that your services are available throughout the world to the end customers wherever you have the customer base. So this is the basic intro about DevOps tool chain. So let us talk about cloud. So I think now it has been like almost 10-15 years that we used to say cloud is a nascent thing, but it is not anymore. Cloud is everything that you use. I think most of you uh, YouTubers or Instagram stars, you might have, you might be storing all your photos, videos into cloud, right? Be it Box, be it OneDrive, be it Google Drive, or any storage thing. Everything you store it in cloud. Cloud is, I mean, like, I don't want to joke something like this, but I do want to joke. Like, cloud is not something you see when the rain comes. You know, right? It's actually a set of physical servers, like your computers, kept on so and so warehouse, like in a building. Uh, Amazon, what it does is, like, across different cities, different regions in the world, they will maintain thousands of servers in certain buildings, and they will provide those servers to the companies based on the pay per use. I will talk about those benefits. So this is what cloud is all about. It is physical server virtualized for the companies or individuals to use it. So you don't have to purchase 100 servers for your company physically, and because it is, I'll talk about those benefits. Coming to the next slide, definitely. it's all about cloud and its benefits, why companies are moving towards cloud from on-premises. So on-premises is nothing but purchasing the physical servers and keeping those inside your office building and maintaining them. Now, obviously, when there is a computer, you need to have AC, right? You might have seen some jokes about it in the movie called D. So, I mean, I'm just trying to convey that maintaining infrastructure, physical hardware is a very costly thing. So not only purchasing computers is sufficient, but also you need to maintain all other extra hardware or infrastructure to maintain that. So with cloud, you don't have to waste money on purchasing all that. So it is low cost, definitely. So you will pay only for what you use. Like, let us say today you want 100 servers to serve your customer base. Uh, what? Okay, let us take TikTok. Okay, like 1 month before, TikTok had very high customer base in India, but recently with some issues, their rating is going down and number of users are going down. So they don't have to run on the n number of servers. Like, let us say earlier they had to run on 1,000 servers for Indian customers. Now because number of users are going down, uh, they can reduce their infrastructure size. Like they can reduce it to 500 servers, and they can pay AWS or whatever cloud they are using only for that amount. So talking about agility and time to market, so definitely uh, cloud providers like AWS, they have hundreds of services to for each and every need. For example, if you want to deploy a service, they have a service. If you want to register your domain, earlier people used to use GoDaddy. Even today, GoDaddy they will use to register your websites. Now they have AWS has Route 53, where you can register your own domain and pay for that domain. Or if you want to store your data, you have different types of databases. RDS for relational database storage, or DynamoDB, Aurora for NoSQL databases. So you can, if you have a very dynamic goal to reach your customer base, let us say that 3 months back you got a requirement, and if you want to deploy that into production within 3 months, and earlier you have to worry about it, like even it would have taken like maybe 2 years, who knows. But these days, even within the, like, if you go for serverless, even second day you can go to production live. So time to market is very quick with cloud, and easily scale up and scale down, right? I want to take one example which you all can connect to, relate to. So in 2016 or 17, we are in 2020. Okay, in 2018, when AP government was selling government apartments, they did not expect that they will get huge traffic. And on the first day when they launched their website for the customers to purchase the apartments, uh, the site got crashed. So no one could register and purchase the apartments. Then the next day, AP government, what they did was they reached out to AWS. That's the article I read. So they reached out to AWS, and AWS provided, hosted this the Happy Homes, I guess. That's the website AP government built for selling the apartments. So this Happy Nest or Happy Homes website was hosted onto AWS, and then very next day, even though the traffic was almost more than 1 lakh persons, so they were quickly able to scale, and there was no network outage, or everyone was happy and able to access. I gave this example just to let you know that when there is huge customer traffic, you can increase your number of servers. You can scale up, auto scale, and the next day the customers would not log into that site because the registration period is over. So at the time, maybe only thousands or hundreds of customers would log into that happiness website. So at that time, you don't have to run all those servers, right? You can scale down. So that way, AP government saved a lot of money in hosting that website, and also customers were happy to use that website. So I'm just giving an example how you can leverage cloud, especially AWS, to solve many of your business. I mean, when I say business, whichever has a website, like very quickly and to address customers in a efficient manner. And you don't have to, definitely you don't have to pay upfront costs. You don't have to spend money on the infrastructure. And as we talked earlier, you can deploy all you and self-service entire your infrastructure within a single click button. So you can automate that way. So as a DevOps engineer on the cloud, this is where you come into picture. Self-service your infrastructure or writing code as infrastructure. And coming to AWS side, like these general cloud benefits, you can see those aspects on the AWS side also. It's cloud provider, right? You can get security related service, on-demand services, measured services. What is measured services? Like you can, based on the threshold limit that you set, or metrics that you define, you can purchase your services. Like if you have a EC2 server, you can measure the based on the traffic. You can choose a separate a specific instance type, or all those network capabilities, all that aspects. And it is definitely economical, which means cheap, and highly available and reliable are the interesting keywords that you need to think about when you think about AWS as a DevOps engineer. So you need to make your entire infrastructure and application highly available, and which means 24/7 it should be available for the end customers, and there should be zero downtime. That is the expectation these days. And it should be highly reliable, like with less errors or less bugs. And obviously cloud providers, they will take care of some of the maintenance work, so it is easy to maintain for the companies. And it has a large network access, definitely. So AWS has availability region even in Mumbai, I guess. In US we have US East, US West, like in different states, like 4 to 5 states, we have different availability regions. Why do they need different regions, you might ask, right? So let us say in Japan, AWS has a center and they have a tsunami, and all the private companies or companies that have a websites or servers in that region, and they might have customer base in China, India, and US also. So because Japan had a tsunami, they should not lose the customer base in other countries, right? So your application will be parallelly running on different regions, and even if Japan is affected, your customers from different regions of the world can access your application. That way you will have that revenue running. Your business is alive, so you will not face much loss, so large network access is that is the benefit. And resource pooling, like as I was saying, scale up and scale down very quickly, and pay as you go. That is the main feature of cloud. So whatever you use, you pay only for that. You don't have to pay for all the servers that AWS uses when you are not using it. So here also I've tagged one YouTube presentation, and read what is there, what they are providing, right? So in our career as a DevOps guy, even today I read all this stuff. Like whenever there is a requirement comes, I go through these concepts and I'll try to implement that. I mean, expectation from DevOps guy is to implement best practices. So you need to go through the AWS documentation, even on the open source tools. You will have blogs like other teams or other companies might have implemented a best practice, and you need to implement that in your project as well, something like that. So that's why I'm saying that please go through the videos. You don't have to worry about the documentation, the Word document or anything like that. You simply go to the videos and animated things will be there. Maybe you do not like what I'm conveying right now, right? So I think 50% of you might get bored from what I'm saying, but there might be someone who might be conveying the same thing what I'm trying to say in an interesting manner. So that would help you to learn different aspects. So these last two slides is for your career paths, guys. Like if you want to do certification, if you want to become a developer, AWS has a AWS developer certification. There is an associate level, there is a professional level, there is something called cloud practitioner, very basic level, foundational level. So please go through all the videos and spend some time, and you can enhance your career from now itself. I think now it's time for question and answer session. I took,
Students, you can ask queries, students.
yeah. You can also type in the chat if you don't want to.
Srinivas, let me ask one question.
Yes, sir.
Actually, we don't know about AWS certifications.
Correct.
And from third year onwards, we can plan for AWS certification for our students. And at the end of final year, I think what is is there any qualification to do the certificate?
Definitely, sir. That's a very good question. So as I was saying, there are different types of roles or certifications that you guys can do. Obviously, I don't expect you guys to do any certification like associate or professional at this stage of your career. You can just take a cloud practitioner certification. So it would cost even less. And for students who don't want to spend money on certifications, at least go through the certification learning paths and take your time and learn all the aspects. When you have money, you can take certification. So sir, for your question, to answer your question, cloud practitioner is a very basic one. Even students can do take. So it doesn't require any qualification like hands-on experience. So yeah.
Good.
Yeah, next question. Please.
Students,
you can type in the chat box if you don't want to.
Students, you can ask queries.
That I think disabled, Srinivas.
Yes.
That disabled. How can
unmute Srinivas.
Oh, is it like?
Ask them to raise hand.
Can I do that?
Okay. You can do that, Srinivas. You can unmute.
Okay, let me stop sharing and see. Okay. Chat
Just
is enabled.
click on the participants. You can click on participants, unmute them.
Yeah. Unmute all. Guys, I've muted all. Now, whoever wants to talk, they can unmute yourself. I see Smita ma'am has raised her hand. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Sir, yes, sir. Sir, yes, sir, I have a doubt regarding which DevOps tool is more useful in corporate sector, sir?
Yeah, good question. Like, as I was saying earlier, uh, there is no one single tool that is 100% useful for your career, right? So
Yes, sir.
today you might learn, for example, Jenkins. Uh, 4 years back, it was very useful for any DevOps guy. But
Okay.
today you have many competent tools like GitLab. For example,
Okay.
I learned Jenkins when I was preparing to become a DevOps guy. But
Okay.
from past 2 years, I never used Jenkins. We use something called GitLab for CI/CD. Okay, so
Okay, sir.
what I'm trying to convey is that you don't worry about whether the tool that you're learning is very helpful or very important. You just learn how the tool is being used or how the tool is can help a DevOps lifecycle. Okay,
Okay,
if you
sir.
learn, for example, if you learn Jenkins, you try to learn how it is used to build a pipeline, or how it is used to integrate with Maven to build your code. So you learn those basic concepts. That way, tomorrow if Jenkins is completely not used and a new tool comes, you can quickly learn that and work on that. So you don't have to worry about latest technologies or something like that. You just worry about how those individual tools in each phase of the DevOps lifecycle is used. That's a good question again, guys. Please go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you, sir. Sir, I have one more question, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Now, Puppet and Terraform and one of these are the DevOps tools, sir.
Correct.
Puppet and Terraform and Ansible, sir. And what is the difference between these three, sir?
Good question. Basically, when it comes to the actual usage, right? Puppet, Chef, Ansible, all this
Terraform.
Terraform. No.
Oh,
Terraform, yeah. I mean, since you asked about Terraform, Terraform is something used to like a configuration tool. Uh, Sorry, deployment tool like AWS code deploy, something like that. Whereas Puppet, Chef, and Ansible, these fall under different category, that is configuration management. When I say configuration management, earlier I was giving one example, right? There are, let us say there are 100 servers, 20 run on Windows, 50 run on Linux, 30 run on Mac OS, and you have two different types of databases, SQL Server and DynamoDB as a NoSQL database. So you need to write all this, like it's like maintaining a list of type of tools and stack that you are using in your infrastructure. And when you make a note of those lists, you need to make those lists come into reality. So that is nothing but configuration, and these tools help you to configure those into a single file, like infrastructure as code, and you will deploy your desired state application into 1,000 servers within minutes, not minutes, very quickly you can scale with a desired state. So this is what these tools do. And when you ask difference between among them, definitely like Chef, it has integration with cloud providers like AWS, like OpsWork, and Puppet. It used to be open source, and Ansible, it has not only configuration capabilities but also deployment capabilities. So even though the main goal of these tools is same, they will have internally different maybe some tool is costly and some tool is more efficient for your infrastructure. So you don't worry about which tool to learn. You choose one tool, learn end to end. And as I said, like for an earlier example, Jenkins for CI/CD. Similarly, configuration management tools, you can learn any one of the tools. And if you ask which is latest and more used, Ansible and Chef are more very much used. So you can learn any one of those and you will be comfortable with other tools. I promise you guys, like if you learn the concepts, you will definitely be familiar or happy in using any new tools. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. And one more last question for me, sir.
Yeah, no worries. Please go ahead.
Yeah, especially in research oriented, what are the tools for DevOps pointers, sir? Research oriented, sir.
Oh, good question. Research oriented, right? So
Totally, previous are on corporate sector point of, sir. Nowadays, the research also is very tremendous. That's it. The research point of view, any tool is there in DevOps point of view.
yeah, definitely. It's a totally valid question. So I may not be the correct person to answer this question, but I will try to answer this because I'm from IT background. So basically, as I said, if you let me go back to the previous slides. Yeah, if you look at this particular slide, there is something called infrastructure automation, security, and network related. So you can do research on the application tools that are used to automate your infrastructure, and you can think about how to bring more efficiency. Like for example, in AWS, right? There is a service called S3, a simple storage service. So you can store anything on that and any amount of it. Like for my marriage, I hosted my invitation card on S3 and shared that S3 link to all of my friends and colleagues. So you can something like that. What I'm trying to say is that AWS say that S3 has 99.8 digits of availability, like after 9999. So that much of availability. You can do something research on like how to make it 100%. I know it is not possible, but that is how you do, right? Research. Whatever is not you think is not possible today, you want to make it possible and available for everyone. So you can take such examples or such problems. It's not a problem, it's a very good thing. And you can enhance such features if you want to do research, if you want to go research side in DevOps. So how to make operations efficient and agile methodology is there, right? So how to make your sprints more efficient by leveraging DevOps culture. So these are the areas where you can do research on.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions?
Sir, good morning, sir.
Hi.
Sorry, good night. Yes.
Yeah, no worries. Please go ahead.
Sir, how much for the cost it takes for that certification, sir?
Okay, good question. Since you asked that, let me take you back to the slide I've kept here. So I've provided a link for AWS Learning Paths. Please let me know if you are able to see the screen, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you see the screen, you have everything related to AWS certification over here. And you want to learn how to be a cloud practitioner, how to be a DevOps engineer, how to be a developer on AWS. So these are the paths. And since you asked about the price for each certification, so you have all the links here. And if you want to do particular, for example, let us take cloud practitioner. As I was saying, even students can take this exam. You will have all this free information, exam guide, and what are all the sample questions, what is the format. You see here $100 US. You can simply browse for AWS Cloud Practitioner price certification plus something like that, and you will definitely get. Oh, here also it is showing in US dollars. Let us convert into Indian currency. 100 into, let us say today it's 75. Somewhere around 7,500 rupees. I don't think
Okay, thank you.
the students can afford that. So that's what, like, you can simply focus on learning. You can worry about taking the certification once you are 100% confident, and if you have economical support, financial support. Okay. So yeah, hopefully I hope I answered that question, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Let's go ahead with the next question.
Hello,
Yes,
hello, hello,
please go ahead. I can hear you.
hello.
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Srinivas. I'm Dr. William,
Hi,
HOD
sir.
of CSC, CITEC.
Hi, sir.
Good morning and good night for you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Actually, from student side, I want to ask you one question.
Please go.
At the time of knowing about the AWS or certification time,
Correct.
they should know about the HDFS or not?
Good question.
They should know HDFS.
Yeah, definitely. So AWS is not a different imaginary world or something like that. So every service or resource that is available in AWS, it will have its basic roots. Even same with HDFS. So all like let us take EC2. There is a service called EC2 on AWS. Like,
Yes,
its
yes.
full form is
Elastic Cloud.
Elastic Cloud Compute.
Yes, yes.
So
Yes.
people who are new to AWS, they might think that, okay, this is something new and I don't want to learn, or I mean, they will get afraid. Of course,
Yes,
AWS
yes.
has introduced their own technical jargon names,
Yeah.
but if you learn what it is, like to expand the full name, Elastic Compute Cloud. So
Yes.
what is the main feature of cloud? You should be able to auto scale your infrastructure, right? Uh, make your infrastructure available, highly available.
Mm.
So you should be,
Okay.
that feature is called elasticity. So,
Mm.
and Elastic uh, Cloud Compute, EC2, C2. Cloud,
Yes.
obviously it is on cloud, and compute is nothing but compute power. Like your laptop is a compute machine, computer. Your personal PC is a computer. So that's why they named it as Elastic Cloud Compute.
Cloud Compute.
So if you try to map what you know with the names, what they have named, your life would become easy and you will easily understand those concepts. So I would say yes, whatever you learn is definitely useful for learning AWS. All you need to do is like break down and map the concepts. That way it won't be a challenge for you to learn. It is very easy, guys. I can vouch uh, 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 behalf of AWS. So, but all you need to do is like you need to spend time in learning basics, as sir rightly asked. You need to know what HDFS is, what OS is, what hardware is, what IO is, input output, what a command is, what a kernel is. So then you will definitely understand basics on AWS as well. So please leverage YouTube or internet and spend some time like you spend on Instagram and Facebook. It's really useful.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
hope
Srinivas.
I answered your question, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you guys have any other questions? I can spend like 5 more minutes.
Somebody has raised the hands. Please see 623 of both the years. 623, second year and third year, they raised the hand, please.
Yeah, please unmute yourself and talk, guys. Who are
Good
has
evening,
raised
sir.
their hands? Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, the thing is AWS necessary for every one of us to get a happier life? That means to become economically stronger.
Definitely, I would say, if you ask, is it necessary for everyone? For that statement, answer is no.
Yes, sir.
The answer is no. But learning AWS, of course, that's why I'm saying, forget about certification, guys. Forget about spending money. But learning AWS, or as a matter of fact, any cloud service, it would help you to understand what today's market is all about, or what future can be in IT industry. So if you want to be in IT industry, or if you want to have a happy life in IT industry, then anyone can learn. And learning AWS, maybe once you get a job, you might, your company or project requires Azure, right? So you might think that whatever you learned on AWS is waste. Don't think like that. So for example, when I was doing masters, I was learning big data concepts. Okay, I wanted to do certification also, but I never got time to do certification, and I never got a chance to work on big data. Uh, of course, I thought like a DevOps guy would require something on big data as well, but I never got to work on really on big data. But even today, any concept that requires uh, decision making on dealing with huge data and data streams, handling databases, I implement those concepts that I learned 5 years back or 4 years back when I was learning big data. Okay, so I never regretted that. Okay, I spent almost 3 to 4 months of time in learning big data with my friends, even though we did not have that in our subject. And I never regretted it because it always helped me in making decisions in our project, and I got appreciation from our management. So again, to answer your question, it's not requirement for everyone to learn AWS, but anyone can learn AWS so that their life would be easy in their IT career. Yeah, not only AWS, even DevOps, for that sake. Maybe you are a good Java programmer, and you might think that if I'm a good Java programmer, and if I write code in seconds, and if it works without zero errors, then you might think that that is sufficient. No. I deal with developers, right, today. They need to know, when I as a DevOps guy, when I talk about operating system, running your program has some bugs in Windows, and running your program doesn't have a bug in Linux. When I say that, they need to understand. They should not come into quarrel like, no, 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 my program should run everywhere. I've built everything neatly. So the expectation is that it should run with high efficiency. They will say that statement if they don't know anything about operating system. So if you ask, do I have to learn operating system? Yes, you have to learn operating system to be happy as a developer. So same applies with AWS, guys. And that's a very good question. Yeah, hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning. You can call me Sri. No need to call sir. Yeah, please go ahead.
Some emerging tech in the world for immediate jobs, sir.
Okay. So it's really a complicated question, even though it sounds very simple, and there might be very many videos or courses available on the market. That so these are the emerging technologies that you can learn to get a job. But the fact is, the main intention to take this session to come forward and to take this session for you guys is to let you know what I have come across from my initial stages, even when I was a student, right? So I've never worked on any tool or learned any tool that I'm working or using right now as a student. So I only learned the basics, concepts, and I thoroughly enjoyed learning those. And whenever someone asked about any, for example, let us take OOPS concept, what is encapsulation? If someone asks, I try to explain it to not only interviewer, even for my friends with the real world examples. So if you ask me about what are the latest tool set in the DevOps, I can say like these days, GitLab, I can type on the chart. This chart. So GitLab is what we use, and many of the companies are these days using, because it is open source. Companies has to spend less amount, but it does the miracles. Like if you take Jenkins and GitLab, I'm not trying to compare or lessen one application than the other, but I'm trying to compare. If you take Jenkins, you need to have all the plugins, Maven, GitHub, SonarQube, all these tools as plugins, Artifactory to store your binary files, jar, var files. Whereas GitLab, it has everything inbuilt inside that, and it is an open source tool. So these days, many companies are using GitLab. If you know about GitLab or even Jenkins, you can survive even if your company is using Bamboo, Circle CI, Travis CI, whatever XYZ name they keep and they use it. If you know the concepts from one tool, you'll easily implement on the other tool. And someone asked about Chef and Puppet and Ansible. So Ansible is vigorously used these days for configuration or deployment management as a deployment management tool. And yeah, so I hope I answered at least half of you. Because to be honest, I'm not supposed to say these are the tools that you can learn to get a job immediately, right? If I say it is a lie, I cannot say that, or no one should say that, because there is no certain tool stack that will land you on a job. But learning this tool stack would definitely help you, in securing a job. I think any recruiter from IT company, they would only expect what you have learned and what you're trying to achieve with what you learned. So they don't like, let us take my example. As I said, I was a good Java programmer, but even in the interview, they never asked me about Java, and they thought I am a EC2 guy, and they misspelled my resume, and they asked all about EC2 related questions. Luckily, in the third year and second year, I had some MATLAB, all those courses. So I was able to answer basic questions, and they gave me job in Computer Science Corporation, CSC. Why I'm telling this example is that as long as you're good with basics, even if the others do mistake, if you convey what you know well in a calm and composed manner, then you would definitely get a job. So please guys, don't worry about getting a job. Try to learn the technologies and go through YouTube videos. Like after this session, right, I talked about a lot of crap or bullshit about DevOps that you don't even require, right? So I apologize if some of that content is not useful for you. But what I'm trying to convey is that after this session, spend some time daily and learn, try to know what DevOps is. Maybe someone out there on the YouTube might explain 1,000 times better than me. So, or even about AWS or certification paths. Go through those. It is free, guys. I know, like after Geo has been introduced in India, like people are using internet very vigorously. So use it for your personal career as well. In the long run, you will be very happy. I promise you guys. So spend some time on these tools. And yeah, if anyone of you have any other questions, you can take 2 to 3.
Hi, sir. Hello.
Yeah.
What is the use of EBS and RDS, sir?
Sure. So looks like you just now Googled about those keywords.
No, so actually, I'm already known about AWS.
No. What I'm trying to convey is that that's a good question. Especially EBS and RDS is something related to storage. Okay.
Yes, sir.
EBS is elastic block storage. So when you think about your laptop or your personal computer, you know something called RAM and hard disk, right? So RAM is something that is linked to your computer for running your operating system or basic uh, applications, whereas hardware is something where you store your applications and all those things. So EBS is such service provided by AWS. So generally, elastic block storage is used in collaboration with EC2, Elastic Cloud Compute. So whenever you run your EC2, you need to store your basic information so into EBS, so that when you shut down your EC2, that memory will not go down. Like if you shut down your laptop, your OS will not be killed, right? Like you don't have to install OS again. So EBS is storage, whereas RDS is relational data service, data storage or data service. Okay, it is again a AWS service, and the name itself says, right, relational data. So you know about SQL servers, right? MySQL.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So AWS has provided something similar to that service. As I said earlier, whatever AWS is providing, it is already there in the internet or IT market with different names, and but the goal is same, and AWS is providing those services with better efficiency or services. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir. Sir, one more, sir.
Yeah.
Is there any difference between EC2 and ECS?
Yeah, ECS is a thing when you deal with container services, containers. So, do you know what a container is?
Yes, sir.
So basically, container is a virtual machine running on a host computer. Okay, so ECS is where you use if your application stack are containerized using Docker or Kubernetes. Hope I answered that question as well. But you can find more details on the Amazon website as well.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Does anyone have any other question? Okay, guys, I take that silence as a no. I hope this session was, yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, Srinivas, thank you very much, Srinivas. Thank you for your continued patience to interact with our students.
Sure, sir, no problem.
Actually, we will expect your presence in our college premises in future.
Yeah, sure, sir. Like I would love to.
After coming to India, and you have to come to our college, and you have to interact with our students.
Sure.
And we have to motivate our students. That is
my intention. I mean, like today's generation, I mean, we are no one to motivate them. They can motivate us. They are more intelligent fellows like us. like earlier, I misunderstood that one of the students, he searched for a keyword in Google and he asked, but fact is he already knew about AWS. You see, right? Like when I was in second year or third year, I never knew about even cloud. But these days, students are very intelligent and smart. So that's why I try to make this session rather than too much technical or professional. I wanted them to leverage free content in the internet and go through the animated videos. That way they will understand the concepts easily. So yeah, I mean, but I would love to help any student, and I can share my LinkedIn profile, and yeah, you can always ask your doubts or questions through my LinkedIn account. And before I sign off, guys, I have one suggestion that I've been telling from the beginning, that build your LinkedIn profile like those who have asked questions, right? Looks like at least they're interested in asking questions. If they're asking questions, they're definitely interested to join IT. So to be on IT, the LinkedIn profile is very much required. So build it well. Like if you have cousins or friends, I mean seniors, take their help, or at least open a LinkedIn account, like a FB account, and start navigating through the LinkedIn page, see what is there and where to upload your profile photo, and where to provide your project details, where to provide your certification details, all those things. So just navigate, and there are YouTube videos on how to build your LinkedIn also. So yeah, that is very useful. And if I have permission, I can upload this video in my YouTube channel as well. So those who could not hear due to network issues, they can go through that video.
Definitely, Srinivas. Definitely.
Sure, sir.
No problem. Actually, it is also useful for students also.
Sure, sir. Definitely. Once I upload, I will share you the link, sir, so that you can share it with the students. I think you have my LinkedIn profile. You can share it with them, so they can always reach out to me. And yeah.
And one thing, if any students any doubt, please, students, you can raise hand. Are you okay, Srinivas? Okay. No. Okay. Then anybody is there? Last one.
Okay, I can take one last question.
Any questions are there? You can see that anybody raise hand. Srinivas.
Let me click on the participants. I don't see anyone raising hands.
Okay, no problem.
Already exhausted.
And today I am very happy with this session, Srinivas. And we will conclude this event by vote of thanks. And I am very happy for this event. Principal sir is coming to this event and staying up to last end of the meeting. I think sir is there in our meeting now. Srinivas? Srinivas, Principal sir is there?
Sir is not.
No.
Actually, sir is not there.
Actually, I thought that Principal sir will give a few words regarding this session. Okay. Thank you very much, Srinivas. Thank you once again. And vote of thanks will be taken by some other person.
Yes, sir.
Okay, ma. Prasanna, madam is there?
Yes, sir.
Prasanna?
I'll start, sir.
Prasanna, madam is there?
No, sir.
Priya, madam is there?
No, sir. Ma'am is not there, sir.
Okay. Srinivas,
Instead of ma'am, I'll convey, sir.
Okay. Good. No problem. Thank you, Srinivas. Thank you once again. And
I know.
We'll conclude. Anything you want to say? Anything? That is great. Actually, we expected only 1 hour. Now more than 2 hours. It's very good.
That's right. So
anything you want to share?
No worries.
So Srinivas, sir.
Madam.
Sir, Saruparan MCA department, sir.
Hi, sir. Please go
I convey my thanks to you, sir. You are giving the more informative session for today. That's why I convey my thanks on our department side also. We can convey the thanks for you, sir. Especially spending your a lot of time for.
Okay.
Definitely.
Thank you, madam.
Yes,
Thank
that-
you.
Thank you so much once again, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Manasa, you can conclude this. Srinivas, you want to share anything? Anything to our students?
That's it, sir. Like all I want to say is like students, they have abundant information sources today. So please spend some time in learning the concepts. So without concepts, you cannot, you cannot survive for the longer period. So learning basics and concepts is very useful. So that is the one official, official statement that I want to give at the end. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank
all the
you.
best for your careers, guys. And you can always reach out to me through my LinkedIn profile, and I'll try to answer any questions if I can.
Okay. Thank you, Srinivas. Thank you very much. Manasa, are you ready? Hello. Sorry, Prasanna.
Yes, sir, I'm
Prasanna,
ready.
are you ready? Okay. Just start.
Yes, on behalf of our Siddharth family, I would like to thank Mr. Shanmuga S. Nutalapati garu for accepting our request and joining the webinar today. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
I'd like to thank the chairman of Siddharth Group of Institutions, Dr. Kundura Ashok Raju garu, for his constant support towards us. I would like to thank the principal of CTech, Dr. Kamasani Chandrasekhar Reddy garu, for having his time with us. I would like to thank the principal of SysTech, Dr. Muppala Janardhan Raju garu, for being with us today. I would like to thank the HOD of CSC SysTech, Dr. D. William Albert sir, for being with us today. I would like to thank the HOD of CSC CTech, Dr. B. Geeta Vani ma'am, for having her time with us today. I would like to thank the HOD of MCA, Dr. A. Swarupa Rani ma'am, for spending her time with us today. And last but not least, I would like to thank our dynamic HOD sir for conducting this webinar during this pandemic and for his continuous efforts for our department. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, ma. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to all our students. Patiently, you will be attending this webinar, and we will conduct more webinars in coming days, like Srinivas. We will take help from your seniors, and Srinivas is the first person, and he came to and he accepted our request. We are very thankful to Srinivas. Thank you, Srinivas.
It's my pleasure, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good night. Thank you. And we will plan further more sessions with your acceptance.
Yeah.
Srinivas?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Srinivas. We can end this meeting.
Sure.
Okay. Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Thank you, ma. Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.